Sweet. Get to play Shadow of Mordor. Wait. What? DC? Rock. What the heck? Batman? What? What the crap? What is going on? What the heck? I wanted to play Lord of the Rings. I guess I'm gonna watch... Oh, I can watch The Hobbit, you know. Here we go. Let's go. Got it on YouTube. Let's go. What the? Why is it... I don't want to read. I wanted to watch the movie. The heck? Maybe I can watch Star Wars? Let's see. Yeah, there's a Star Wars, right? There's a new one coming out. You got Force Awakens. What? The heck? I put it in Force Awakens. This looks like an... What? Episode 4? What the crap? Okay, something is up with this Xbox. Okay, what? I reveal the hidden truth of all things. What does that mean? Your handwriting sucks, Xbox. You know what? I'm just gonna watch YouTube. Gosh, this is so stupid. Let's see. Okay. Anthony Fantana. Check him out. What the heck? Why is there a... Oh. Okay, I'll try something else out. Just leave this here. There we go. Let's see here. What the heck? What is this? I don't even get it. What do I do? You know what? I'm stinky dumb. Okay, we're gonna try Conquest now. Got a new Xbox. See if this one works any better. Okay, let's try this out. Okay, it's working. I think this is right. Yeah, okay, it's working. Sweet. Okay. Thank you, Xbox. You're working again. I love you. Well, I had to buy a new one, so Microsoft got some free money off of me. Oh well. Where are all the cool Lord of the Rings games? You've got Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War that just came out, but I mean, there's just not very many really good ones. Star Wars has so many good games, and Harry Potter has... But we need more good Lord of the Rings games. Where are they? There's been a total of 34 games set in the Middle-earth universe, but there aren't very many actually good ones. This brings me, of course, to Lord of the Rings Conquest. Is this the hidden Lord of the Rings gem I've been looking for? Spoiler alert, not really. There's plenty of good in Conquest, but there's a lot of issues as well. So what's the state of Conquest today? But before we get into the specifics, let's talk about the elephant, or should I say Oliphant, in the room. EA shut the multiplayer servers down years ago. They took them offline just 14 months after launch. That's insanely fast. I couldn't definitively find out the shortest turnaround for a game to have live online multiplayer to having all of its servers shut down, but the only other game I could find that was shut down faster than Conquest was MLB The Show, which is a sports game, so who cares, right? On console, it's pretty much impossible to get into a multiplayer match. I'm not saying it's totally out of the question, because I'm sure there's some crazy mod or something you could do to get on. For PC, I know you can find a workaround somewhere, but it's pretty out of the way. I have no idea if anyone would actually be playing though. Multiplayer is as dead can be, but that's not the end of the story. There's much more to learn from this game. Like, when and how does a reskin work? How do you make simple combat interesting? And what amount of features keeps the player interested? By comparing this game to other Lord of the Rings games and games of the genre, we can answer the question of what makes a good video game set in Middle-earth, and give some insight into good design principles in general. Conquest is a Lord of the Rings reskin of Star Wars Battlefront 2. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, it just is. The menus look similar, they have a class and hero system, the maps, modes, and vehicles are similar, the campaigns have a similar structure. The only thing relatively new, besides the setting, is the evil side of the campaign, which follows an alternative storyline from the movies. Oh, and there's no space combat, of course. So why didn't Conquest catch on, while Battlefront still has a following? I think it's because when they reskinned Star Wars into Lord of the Rings, they didn't take into consideration the different combat systems. This brings me to... Conquest's combat is boring and repetitive. Battlefront's is simple as well, but it's more skill-based since you have to aim after all. There's just much more involvement. Conquest's combat is broken down into 5 basic classes. Each of these has their own unique playstyle and abilities. For example, the archer has a long-range bow with fire, poison, and scatter arrows. This might sound like a lot of variety, especially when you factor in the many different heroes and the creatures you can take over, which are awesome by the way. But really it all gets old pretty fast. Every time you fall, you do the same animation. There's basically no meaningful combo moves to speak of, so it basically turns into button mashing. It's just pretty boring. The only thing to break up the monotony is some of the cooler maps like Pelennor Fields, which has Oliphants to take control over. Weathertop, Isengard, and the Mines of Moria are also cool. And of course the heroes, they're pretty fun. You can play as Gandalf, Sauron, Frodo, Wormtongue, and even Isildur, and many more. They all pretty much play like buffed versions of the main classes. What was cool about Battlefront was that the heroes play completely differently to the standard classes, which made it quite fun to play them. In Conquest, it just makes for something cool to look at and a nice buff. Because Conquest doesn't have the first-person or third-person shooter mechanics of Battlefront, and the inherent skill needed in those games, the simple hack-and-slash combat just gets boring. You can't port over all the game design from one setting and expect it to work in another, completely different one, especially if you don't boost the complexity a bit to make up for the easier combat system. The main reason this game isn't a massive garbage fire is the setting. Lord of the Rings is awesome. I'm a big fan. Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite book. But if you don't like Middle-earth, there's really nothing for you in this game. Getting to mow down dozens of orcs with an int, slaughtering a hobbit village as a Balrog, and sneaking up behind Saruman to one-hit kill him are all pretty sweet, but only if you really like these characters in the first place. Even then, it gets old after a while. I'm sure you can tell by watching the gameplay how repetitive it gets. Though I have nostalgia for this game, it really just isn't that great. What would make it better? A more detailed combat system that isn't just doing the same actions over and over. Basically just more depth. And even back in the day, the graphics weren't that impressive. Just compare them to Call of Duty or even BioShock, which came out over a year before. I like the ideas here in Conquest. It has a good foundation built upon the Battlefront formula. There's a reason EA shut the servers down so early. People over 12 just aren't going to want to stick around. I unfortunately never got to play this game online since I didn't have Xbox Live back then, so I'm missing a bunch of achievements that are impossible to get now. This brings me to possibly the most important question I'll ask in this video. What obligation does a publisher have to support their multiplayer game post-launch? If the game is dying, should they continue to pay to keep the servers up for such a small number of people? Should they switch it over to a free alternative, like players hosting the match? Is it even possible to switch multiplayer systems like that? And what about a bad company that just lies to everyone and shuts down the servers after a few months just because they feel like it? Should they get punished? These are some tough questions. What do you think about this? Lord of the Rings Conquest is a flawed game with an awesome setting. There wasn't much to keep players coming back, which led to multiplayer being shut down within 14 months. This game is a testament to the impact that setting has in a game. Setting makes or breaks a game, and here it did both. You can fulfill so many of your Lord of the Rings fantasies, but the lackluster combat grinds everything to a halt after a while. If you haven't checked this game out and you're a big Lord of the Rings fan, it's pretty cheap at this point, and it's actually pretty fun for a while in sporadic bursts. If you don't like Lord of the Rings though, just play Battlefront or something, I don't know. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more from me, you know what to do.